Goddag, mit navn er Peter Søndergaard her ved RLT Trading Danmark. Og det du skal se nu er et interview eller et live webinar, vi havde her torsdag den 20. i 2. 2025 med Tony Pawlak fra RLT Trading i USA. Tony, han er CEO over i USA. Han er en erfaren trader, som lever af sin trading, og er en af de bedste instruktører, jeg kender til trading. Det, jeg har bedt ham om i dag, det er at tage lidt ind i tradingpsykologi. Så det, du vil opleve her i den her optagelse, er en samtale mere eller mindre mellem ham og mig, hvor han besvarer vores spørgsmål og fortæller os sit perspektiv på trading. Jeg håber, at du kan lide videoen. Husk at give os et like og et abonner. Husk også at gå og tjekke os ud på realtrading.dk, hvis du synes, at det her lyder spændende, og du gerne vil lære mere om trading. All right. Well, welcome, Tony. Over to you. I'll just pin you, and here we go.
Okay. Sounds good. Let me know if I need to slow down, if there's things I need to repeat or whatnot. But I would love to open the floor up a little bit and just get a feel for you guys of what is your largest struggle right now in trading. You can just type it into the chat pane. Peter, you can kind of help me out.
Sure.
I want to actually address some of the things that you guys need because from what I've seen, everyone's about one or two big hurdles away from consistent profits. Your emotions have everything to do with your returns, right? So we tend to focus a lot on the skills. Like if we're not getting the returns, we go to learn more and more skills. Skills are very essential, but it's these emotional roadblocks that are going to unlock the profits. So yeah, if you'd like to type it in,
Yeah,
let
I
me
just
know.
started up for everyone to just kick off, and then guys, if you don't want to write it in English, just write it in Danish, and I'll translate to Tony, no problem.
Cool. Yeah, we can. Awesome. So we'll start with this first one again. I know you guys are all probably typing, so keep typing away. Um, keep submitting them, and we'll go over more. But emotions when everything is losing. Um, that is a good one. So there's a lot of things that actually go into that emotion. I want to start with the ground level. So in your brain, what pain comes from everything being red? Or what pain comes in your brain from everything from just losing in general? Um, what would you all say is kind of the root of that loss? From what I've seen, it's a lot of like identity, right? Like losing means that I'm not a successful trader, or losing means I'm not going to succeed at this. It brings doubts into your mind. Um, all of those things, right? Do you guys kind of experience some of those things, or where are you guys at when it comes to the losing on a trade? What emotions are there? What identity things are coming about?
Well, for me, and guys, you can just chip in as well. I'll just start out so we can get the conversation flowing. For me, is that that feeling of I'm just not good enough at this. Why is everything red again? Why am I losing money again? Stuff like that. So that repetition. Why can't I just get into that winning streak?
Yeah. Yeah, so and the answer to that really again the answer to all of this is truth. We are operating with the wrong set of truth. We don't have the facts when it comes to trading. And once you have those facts, everything starts to change. So the truth behind a lot of what you just said, Peter, all right, I had something come to my mind and I wanted to say it, but I was like, I'm gonna put that in the back, and then it just fell apart. So I wanted to make sure I got to that point. Um, oh, that's right. Okay. Expectations. So what if successful traders experience those hard drawdowns frequently? I think in our minds, we think that this is not what successful traders go through, right?
Right.
And over my years of trading, I've realized every year I have multiple times during that year where things are really tough. Um, and I've learned that that's trading. Like there's nothing wrong with that. You haven't done something wrong. That's just kind of how it goes. Now you can feed onto that by doing more wrong things. But just the fact that you're in that situation, welcome to the club. Welcome to trading, right? That's how it's going to play out. You're not going to be lockstep with the markets. Again, we have this image of trading in our brains of we don't ever lose. We shouldn't be losing. We shouldn't have a hard month. We shouldn't have a bad month. We might have a hard week, but other than that, we should make it back right away. When in reality, successful traders, they have extremely hard times. I was listening to this one professional trader who trades commodities, actually, and he was talking about at one point, he was down over $1 million on one position. And he trades pretty large size, but he's like, just getting beat up. And here's one of the most successful commodity traders in the world. And the more and more I talk to more and more traders, the more stories they have of this, right? And I talked to Jeremy Newsom, and he's like, I make the majority of my money for the year in just a handful of months, and the rest of the months of the year, I just try not to give it all back.
Right. Yeah. Sounds
It's
familiar.
it's our expectations that are really causing us to have these emotions because we expect us to be better. We expect us to not have drawdowns. We expect it to be a smooth sail like a job where I just get paid every week. I get paid every month. When trading is not that way. Trading is a lot more like running a business where you're going to have your ups and you have your downs. And the key is when it's good, make it really good. And when it's bad, lose as small as you can. So the next thing that people really struggle with when it comes to losing, sorry, let me mute this up. The next thing that people really struggle with when they lose is they're not willing to accept the loss. Losing is never going to hurt you. Holding losers will kill you.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So losing will never hurt you. Holding your losers will kill you. You've got to make sure that you are cutting your losses. You're following your plan. You're not letting yourself turn into hope mode where you start having 20 trades going against you because you should have cut all those 20 trades for a 0.4 hour loss or a 0.5 hour loss or less. But you wanted to see what would happen. You weren't listening. You're like, no, I know better. The markets are going to go down. The markets are going to go up. It's whatever, right?
Right.
You're not listening to what they're telling you. And those are the common mistakes that I've seen. So make sure that you avoid those things. Make sure you're cutting your losses. And then the second thing is make sure you have the right expectations and don't let yourself get down because you're having a hard month or a hard week or whatever. That's normal. That's how trading is. And so now you don't have those emotions coming in. You don't have that identity of like, am I doing this wrong? Why can't I do this? Why is everyone else successful and I'm not? Well, because no one else is sharing their hard times,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so we have the perception that no one goes through hard times. And so that's the biggest thing like in my personal coaching when people trade with me every single day, they see me lose all the time. But I keep my head about me. I keep going forward, and then within days I make back a month of crappy trades. Right? That's what just happened. I for the first 2 weeks of this month, I just got beat up. Just lost, 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 lost. And then Thursday, Friday last week, a week ago, made pretty much my entire months of losses back in two trades. One was a day trade and one was a swing trade. And that's the key is figuring out what the markets are going to do, identifying that, reading some sentiment. We can dive into sentiment here later on in this meeting. But keeping your head on the right shoulder. Because if I would have started to spiral after my sixth loss in a row, if I'd have been like, what's wrong? I've got to make this money back. I'm in an emotional mindset and I'm not going to be able to see things clearly. I would have missed those really good trades. First off, I would have kept trading. And instead, I sat back, I pulled back, and I recognized, let me just figure out what's going on. I will make my money back. I don't need to make it back in an hour. I can sit with it, I can learn from it, and I can wait and see what the markets are doing. And when they show me what they're doing, I will jump on that and I will make not just my money back, but I'll make more. And so staying in that mindset is what's going to open up the doors to success in the future. If you can just keep yourself there. And again, having the right expectations, just understanding trading is hard. It's never just perfectly easy. I went on a 6 month stretch where I didn't have a losing month just this past little bit. pretty much from July all the way till this month right here. Um, I don't know how many months that is, but it's quite a few, where
Yeah.
it was just crushing, 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 crushing. And then this last 3 weeks, 2 weeks have just been like punch in the face, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
That's trading. Right?
Awesome.
And it's hard for people to realize that. They expect me to make trading easy. And it's like, no, I'm gonna help you walk towards the hard. And then you do that long enough and then it becomes easy. So whenever, again, losing on trades, if a lot is red, make sure you're not holding your losses. Make sure you're listening to price action. Make sure you're not doubling down to try to undo something. And then the next thing is make sure that you're staying in the right mindset so that way you can you can see clarity with to the next great trade setup because the great trade setups
What
are
do you
coming.
do to stay in that mindset? To my own experience is when, as you know, when everything is red, it can be hard to stay by the computer and do the analysis because I'd rather do something else. Just look away and not think about it. And my mind is not clear. What do you do to get that sharp mind to still focus on good trades?
Yeah, so I do it's a combination of a few things actually. So the first thing I do is I'm always challenging my brain to do hard things outside of trading. So that's the first step is control your brain. Um, so every week I've been doing this now for quite a few months. I don't recommend doing this, but this is just what I'm doing. I'm not eating on Monday and Tuesday every single week for two
That sounds
days.
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I was like, my brain's like, there's no way you could survive if you did that, right? And so I've been doing it, and mainly because I still want to lose some weight, but it's been super beneficial health wise for me. This again, personally, I don't recommend you go talk to a doctor to figure out what you need to do, but it was hard. And me overcoming hard things is helping to teach myself how to control my brain because you have to realize 90% of your thoughts usually aren't true. They're based on something that's not foundationally true. They're usually based on emotion, fight or flight. Your brain, you're down on a trade, your brain's telling you, like, this is the only trade that matters. If you lose on this one trade, you're not a good trader. If you lose on this one trade, you're going to lose everything. And you just stop and go, none of that is true. Like, if I lose on this one trade, I'll be down some money, but I'm not blowing up my trading account. If I lose on this one trade, I'm still a trader. I'm still like, in fact, I can become a better trader from this experience, right? So your brain is constantly telling you stuff. And as soon as I stopped listening to that and started just challenging my thoughts of like, all right, what's the truth here? Then I can overcome a lot of those emotions because again, it's just founded in wrong expectations and wrong thinking, first off. And the way I started to do that was to do hard things. So again, my brain told me I would die if I did that. And I've been doing that now for 3 months in a row now, and it's been fine. In
So
fact, it's been easy.
it's something in the line of what Jeremy is doing. He's just doing it in a physical way with all his physical challenges, isn't it? Like challenge yourself, challenge your. I guess the right word is self-discipline. That
Yeah.
when the going gets tough and you really don't want to, you continue to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yep. And the second way that I do that is by preparing myself before I actually trade each day. So I will sit down before the markets open and I'll just find 5 minutes for quiet time and I will just put myself into a hard situation. I'll imagine myself getting into a trade and it just immediately not working. And I see that red P&L and I feel that emotion from seeing the losing trade. I put myself through all of it. I get my palms sweaty. I feel the pain. I feel the doubt and the worry. And then I imagine myself doing the correct things. I
Right.
imagine myself cutting the losses. I imagine myself logically looking at the charts instead of listening to my emotions. I put myself through those mental reps so that when I'm in that situation, my brain has something to go back on instead of just emotions. Because without that, your brain's just going to flood emotions. It's that fight or flight. If your brain has been here before, your brain's like, hold on, we've trained for this, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot like military, right? You guys all you train for certain situations, so when you're in there, it's just second nature. You're not freezing, freaking out, making the wrong decision. You're calm, collected, and in fact, you get sharper.
Right.
And so I do those type of exercises before I trade to get myself into that sharp mindset So when those emotions come, I can immediately go to logic and truth instead of giving into more and more of those emotions. And so there's a lot of little tips and tools that you can use to help you work through those triggers and those emotions until you can start finding the truth behind it.
How does back trading fit into that part?
Back trading is huge because back trading fills logic where voids are at. Whenever you have question marks, should I move my stop? Should I just exit the trade right now? Is this a good entry? All the questions that we have, back trading answers. If you've done 500 back trades on this specific entry, your brain knows the numbers. Your brain knows there are going to be losses, probably 50% of them. And your brain knows that even with those 50 losses out of 100 trades, you were very profitable because you lost $100 here. And when you were right, you made 500 or whatever, right?
Right.
So you have that logic behind it, and you get that logic through back trading. So there's different ways to back trade. You can back trade just by practicing, looking through and thinking what's going to happen, or you can back trade by actually measuring out your strategy. Here's my setup. Here's where I place my stop. Here's where I have my targets. This is me getting filled. And you get filled and you log the results. And that's my favorite way of back trading, when I'm actually testing theories and I'm testing strategies. And whenever I have that question of should I exit here early? Well, I've already back tested that. I've done 100 trades of staying in the trade, and then I went back all over those 100 trades again, and I got out early in those.
Yeah.
And then I can compare the measurements, right? I can see what the results were, and I would know there's quite a few times where yes, it did miss my target and come all the way down and stop me out, but there's also quite a few times where it continued to go to my target, and those winning trades more than exceeded the times where it didn't. And so I have logic behind it. So when my emotions are like, should I just get out? My brain immediately goes, well, what did the stats tell you? And so back trading gives you answers, which answers then calm emotions because you have logic behind what you're doing.
Of course, yeah. Well, that's a good segue into Andreas's question about finding time to practice. In this case, remember that most of us, well, none of us do trading for a living. So we all have day jobs. But we have the advantage of the US market is opening at 3:30 in the afternoon. So most of us, well, talking for myself anyway, I can come home, maybe I can actually be there at market start or be there, half an hour in or something like that. But that's also when all the, family chores and stuff, you know, collapses on you. So how do you find time to sit down and do your back trading and sharpen the pencil?
Yeah. So for 6 years before I was a professional trader full time, I had to balance that exact life. And what I did was I was passionate about trading. If if there was any open second that I had, I would take. I woke up an hour early before work every day. During my lunch break, I was on going through courses. I made the time because it was important to me and I knew that it would be worth the investment in the future. And it wasn't just for like 3 months. Like I said, it was for 6 or 7 years before I even quit my job that I just made time for it. So at the exact same time, there's a balance because being with family is important and, you know, your job right now is important. I think people downgrade their job a lot because they just want to trade full time, but they need to be grateful because their job is paying the bills and funding accounts so that you can have what you want in the future and that you can learn right now without having to have the stress of having to like pay your bills. Having to pay your bills without being ready to in trading it's a really hard situation to be in. So be grateful for your job. And when you're at your job, be present at your job. Don't be at your job and trading.
Right.
Now, can you adjust up? Sure. But I'm just saying, like, make sure you're not neglecting your job. Um, you find time by just making time. There's a lot of time, and it's right before work, it's right after, or whatever. But here's something else that helped me a lot when it came to actually trading with the job. Trading is a lot like having a newborn baby, and you go, hey, you baby are going to sleep from 9 p.m. till 7 a.m. every night. That's the plan. That's what we're going to do. It's like, good luck, right? That's not going to happen. No matter how much you plan, you put that baby to bed right at 8 p.m., it's going to do what it wants to do. And people do that. They're like, okay, I'm gonna trade at market open until here because I have 2 hours of free time after dinner. Well, Does your setup occur at a great level on the charts during that time? Trading is not trading. Trading is planning. Your success, 90% of what you do in front of the screen should be looking at what potentially is happening in the future. Man, this would be a great place to get to. If we could get down to this 200 EMA on a daily, if we could do this, if it could break this big volume bear candle, if it could, you're picking out levels where it's obvious where momentum would be. And you're putting alerts there and you're leaving notes on your chart. And that's what's taking me 45 minutes of my day. During that entire 45 minutes, I didn't trade. I'm setting things up for awesome momentum trades in the future. And so then when I'm going throughout my day and those alerts go off, then I just go and press the button. That's the quickest time that I have. People, again, are sitting in front of their computer trying to trade. They're trying to find a way to make money. Whereas for me, I'm just trying to find the clearest momentum areas on a chart. And then when those happen, I just execute my plan that I made up 3 days ago.
Yeah,
Right.
that makes
Like
sense.
that's the biggest difference. And so it's not so much like I have 3 hours to trade in a day. I'm going to trade. It's set up and plan. Before you go to bed, scroll on your phone and start marking out, put alerts on your screen and start figuring out those really good sentiments. Then when you have those sentiments figured out, now those alerts are in place. You have notes. So when that alert goes off, you know why that alert's going off. And then your job is just to press the button and then go about your day, right? Even on a day trade, I'm leaving that trade alone for an hour. I'm going about my day. I'm not sitting there micromanaging, moving my stop every 3 minutes, or I'm just letting it go. It's either going to work or it's not. I know how much money I'm going to lose if it doesn't. I know how much money I'll make if it does. You just go about your day. So it's like that's the mindset that you're going to have the most consistent results, especially when you have a full-time job and families and everything. Do a lot more swing trades and then just spend the majority of your time planning
Yeah.
awesome opportunities instead of trading.
Yeah, well, that sounds very familiar what you just said there. Thank you very much. So, what we've been discussing is, or telling our new traders, all of our traders actually, is that we teach a plethora of strategies, and they shouldn't necessarily, keep learning new stuff. But at some point they will find their strategy, that one strategy that just speaks to them.
Yeah.
Could you talk to how to find your strategy? I know you're very fond, as I am, of credit spreads, but um, when did it, when and how does it dawn on you that this is the thing for me and not, like
Yeah.
the hammer strategy or whatnot?
Yeah. So in when I started seeing a lot of success, it was when I finally just let go of opportunities and focused in on one my opportunity right here. Like this one single strand is where I'm going to focus on, and I'm just going to let everything else go. Whenever you can get yourself into that mindset, you'll start making a lot of money. Whenever people are in the mindset of trade here, this strategy, I could do this, and there's so many, you just look at a chart and you just immediately feel how much money you're missing out on. That type of mindset is not going to lead you to any profits. As soon as you can start narrowing things down and picking one lane and stay in that lane, which again means you're going to miss all kinds of different stuff, but you have something consistent. And that lane is going to be different for everyone, right? It depends on your time frame. For me, I loved credit spreads because at that time I wasn't good enough to read a chart. I wasn't good enough to know if a stock was going to go here all the way to here. I just knew there was a low chance it was going to go down to here.
Right.
And so credit spreads fit that void. And it was something that I was really good at because at the time, that's what I could do. And then I honed in on that and I just let go of everything else and I just focused on that one lane. And so that mindset helps a lot when it comes to finding your strategy. Again, people will find their strategy, but then they see a shining light over here and then a light over here. And they're just chasing in every direction and you're not going to be successful in anything.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But
so
that's also actually also my experience, that when we had members here for like half year, they've done our beginners course, they've done the intermediary course, they've done our mentor groups, and then they keep on searching for new strategies, new stuff, new. It could be forex, it could be something new to trade, because they feel like they need to learn something new all the time.
yeah.
Um, And we of course, because we do different stuff, like you guys do. We also trade options. We also trade stocks. We have a few forex traders as well, and then you get that inspiration, but that inspiration at some point gets too much.
Yeah. Yep. Um, so I'm just writing this down because you just reminded me of something really cool I want to tell some of my other students here. Um, they're really just avoiding the thing that they know will make them successful. That one stumbling block of scared of losing money,
Right.
like that's what they need to learn. And instead of doing that, they blame it on something else because instead of looking inward and be like, it's my fault, they're going like, nah, it's the strategy. I'm going to go find the next one. I'm going to go
Yeah.
find this one. I'm not getting any results, and so I'm going to go find more knowledge because knowledge is relatively easy to find, right? Like you can learn a strategy. You can whatever, new indicator. That's easy. The hard thing is actually looking at yourself and saying, why is it that I'm scared to lose? What does that mean about me? I know for me, I was scared what other people would think about me if I lost, if I failed at trading. That was a big trigger for me. I was so scared of looking dumb. Um, because whenever I quit my job, my entire family basically disowned me, right? They were like, you're going to lose everything. And it was because I was leaving the family business. So I was kind of hurting their lifestyle. Because I was leaving that, everyone said you're just going to fail and you're going to come crawling back. And so I was so scared to prove them right that was such a big trigger for me. And so I did the exact same thing. I would go here, 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 just all over the place, trying to find the one thing that would make me successful. When the one thing that made me successful was looking inward and figuring out what's causing me to screw up every one of these strategies. What's causing me to overlook all these things that I have proven? Because I can back trade in it, like I can paper trade it and I make
Yeah.
money with it. And as soon as it goes live, as soon as my emotions come in, I'm like, I can't afford to lose on this trade, which again, that's not true. I can afford to, you're going to lose. It's a 50% win rate. Why am I treating it like a 100% win rate, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so looking inward on that and figuring out what is the one thing that you deep down know you need to change. Like I always ask people this, like, what do you know? What's your struggle? And they usually always have the answer. I'll say, okay, I'm moving my stop too much. I'm like, why do you think you move your stop too much? Because I'm scared of giving up a winning trade. Okay, boom. There you go. Like, there's your answer, right? Why are you scared of this? Because of this, this, this. And all you have to do to fix it, don't move your stop. Like,
Right.
that is going to give you more results than finding the next strategy because you're going to take that exact same trigger and move it here, right? If someone's
And then
been
we're back
divorced,
to self-discipline.
exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
If someone's been divorced 6 times, it's not their spouse.
I guess you're right.
There's something going on. You're not getting rid of the baggage. You are the baggage. You're the issue, right? And no matter how hard that is, I have family members who have been divorced many, many times, but that is the truth. And it's the truth with trading. Like we'll divorce strategies, we'll divorce mindsets and whatever. But really what it comes down to is you're taking the issue with you to each thing that you go to. And until you can actually start looking back at why is it that I'm so scared of being wrong? Why is it that I'm so scared of being right? Why do I cut my winners too soon? What am I scared of have happening? You start finding the root cause. Once you identify that, your brain can't use it against you anymore. So in my trading, once I overcame that trigger and the truth of who cares what they think about me if I fail, right?
Yeah.
I would be in a trade and that trigger would come and your brain's like, what if your family laughs at you? What if it, I would say, I don't care because if they do, then this is the truth. And then it just immediately quieted down and I could see logically and I started getting success, right? So it's
Awesome.
like
Yeah.
that's going to be your answer for sure is whenever someone's here, teach them the basics. And I agree with you. They need to know multiple things so they can figure out which avenue to start walking down. Once they choose an avenue, that's where we need to come back in and say, okay, if you're not seeing success with this, it's not from this, it's from you.
Yeah.
Let's figure out what the issue is. And that's why most people leave trading is for the same reason why most people won't improve their lives because they don't want to look at themselves in the mirror, right?
Right.
Trading is just a reflection of your weaknesses. That's all trading is. The markets just reflect your weaknesses right back at you. It just punches you right in the face and people can't handle it.
It sounds very
So
familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah. I
go
can't
through it every
remember who
day.
said it, but maybe it might have been Jeremy saying like the market will tell you who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So
It'll show
John is
you.
asking whether you go for, a few trades with a huge profit or you go for many trades with lesser profit. That's how I understand that question.
Yeah. That's a great question. I would say I I'm going to try to squeeze as much out of my winners as I possibly can. And I do that through price action. So for me, the charts dictate how big of wins I have instead of what my desires are. I feel like people are like, I'm just going to hope for big winners. And then they keep having good trades go against them and turn into losers because they didn't exit. Because the big winners come when the charts align with you and you're both seeing things clearly. That's when the most consistent trades come and the biggest winners. They tend to come in twos, not one. It's not one or the other usually. It's consistency and big wins start to come whenever you're seeing the markets correctly. So if you can understand how to take your emotions aside and just look at the charts and accept the outcomes of I'm not wrong till it breaks here. That means I'm going to have to give up this much of my profits to see if I should stay in this trade or not. Am I okay doing that? If the charts are telling you to cut, you cut. When the chart's telling you to hold, you hold. And you just do the best you can. I tend to hold longer until the charts are telling me not to. I'm cutting as soon as the charts tell me it's done, I'm done. But if that means I need to give up some profits to work its way back down to that area, then I'll hold. And so that would be my advice to you on that is it's not so much should you just take quick profits. It's what are the markets giving you? There are certain conditions where yes, the markets are they're not really following through and very quickly it's showing you reversal signals and showing you a lack of strength and yeah I'll start taking my profits a lot faster like on Tesla we did a credit spread on Tesla a week or so ago and I got out of that for a 50% capture in 2 days and everyone's like why'd you exit so soon I'm like because the charts are not in a bull trend. They're dropping hard. And so I am not going to be holding when the charts are telling me this is the spot where the bears are probably going to rotate this back down.
Right.
I knew that going into it. And so my perspective in that specific trade was get in, get out. And then there's other times a month ago, 2 months ago, when I bought Tesla and I would just hold no matter what. And it ran up those 200% because the charts were telling me this is where it's going and this is the strength that's still there. And so when the charts tell you when to hold, you just got to hold. And when they tell you when to cut, you cut. And that takes time to figure out. So it's going to be a learning curve. I think people expect themselves to like be here when really it's like every year of my trading, even as a full-time great trader or whatever, I still every year get better and better at holding longer and longer for bigger and bigger wins. That just comes with time. And so just don't expect yourself to be over here just start being happy with the movement towards that goal because that's what I'm doing even to this day. Like this year, I'm a better trader than I was last year. And in 5 years, I should look back on myself and be like, man, you didn't know what you were doing because I should be that much more advanced in 5 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that would be my advice to that is slowly work forward on that. Again, the right expectation. Don't get upset if you cut something and it keeps running you'll get better and better and better. Your emotional control will control your results. The more you're able to silence those emotions and trust the charts and accept the outcome, the more you'll be able to hold.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. Definitely. So Tony, thank you very much for this. This has been awesome, and aligning very well with all with everything I teach, and we are actually preparing our advanced traders course where I spent the first module on trading psychology alone. So you tap very well into that.
Love that.
Um, could you enlighten us on one of your favorite strategies just to feed that knowledge hunger we have here? We know you're very successful and would like to piggyback on that success.
Yeah. Um, man, it's some of my favorite strategies right now have to do with pennant patterns. So I love resting patterns. So whenever the markets, hope you guys can see this okay.
Yep.
Whenever the markets make a large move, look for setup patterns. So a setup pattern could be a flag. A setup pattern could be a pennant pattern, right? And it could have some other different other things as well. But these are two setups after a large bull move that I am constantly looking for. And if you can recognize that the markets have moving and then the markets set up the next move. I don't trade during this mess. I just trade the move. So I let the markets give me a setup and then I trade the big move. And so if we jump over here to the cues, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. So let me get rid of this here real fast. To someone else, this just looks like whatever. To me, I noticed that we were in a pennant pattern, right? We were making lower highs and we were making higher lows. That's a pennant pattern. So why would we be having a pennant pattern? Why? Because look how big of a move up we had here. Huge move up. What needs to happen? A resting pattern. So here's our resting pattern, right? It went down and then we start making higher lows here, but it's not making any higher highs here. So all I did was just let all of this do its thing. And then as soon as it broke out right here on this gap, we bought and then I exited right up here because that was my target back at an all-time high. And that's the one trade right there that just undid a month, well, 2 weeks worth of losses, right? Got my month back on par. So my favorite strategies right now are just identifying after a large move. And you can do this on a 5 minute. You can do this on anything, right? Here's a perfect example of this right now. Large move. Now what is it doing? We're putting in a flag. So I'm going to understand that this is setting up most likely another move down, right? So as I have this flag pattern coming across, and this, you could also argue this is a pennant pattern too, even though that was a false breakout right there. But I would say this is more of a flag. Once we start breaking this bottom trend line, I'm going to start going short because that's the rest move that's taking me down for the next step. And so many people see this big move and then they immediately try to short everything right away and they just get caught in the setup pattern and it doesn't go anywhere. And then they end up losing on option time and they end up losing just on the trade. It ends up hitting their stop. It just doesn't go to target. And that's because they're trading the setup. Understand the momentum, understand the setup, and that'll set you up to catch that move instead of trying to trade this. So you can put that on every single time frame that you want. And the cool news is that you can apply whatever strategy you're doing to this right here. It's just price action. So really just be aware of the sentiment of the move, the setup for the next move. And that's true for the bull side too. So that'd be kind of a short little condensed version of what I've been working on.
Yeah, well, it sounds very familiar, man. S curves and continuation patterns. That's what I do. And actually, I've added your channels as well, which is,
All right.
the channels and the continuation patterns. It's kind of the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Sure. So, hey, guys, if there's any more questions, bring them in. We have Tony for 20 more minutes, and if you don't ask him questions, I will start doing so. So while they type, Tony, just continuing on the strategy part. So you teach the S curves, and you teach the channels, and you teach the trap setup.
Mhm.
Could you could you give us an example of the trap setup also? I think you taught us the channel last year, and of course we teach the S curve as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So sorry, my voice is already kind of giving out a little.
Hey, it's winter. It's okay. That's how it is.
It's winter, right?
Yeah.
Just 2 seconds. All right. I think we're good. So a trap setup has a lot to do with we're going to walk through the sentiment, right? So let's say in a bull scenario, you get a strong move up and the markets get to a place where they can't go any higher, right? The bears start to get too strong and the bulls get too weak and then it starts to pull back. This area right here I call the key level. this spot where we pulled back. So we were bullish up to that spot and then it pulled back. Okay. This is a very important level because this is a level where the bulls previously were not super strong. This move up is telling everyone out here that it's the bulls are here and to start setting up their buy the dips. So it pulls down until it gets to a place where the bulls jump back in based on this price action, and they push this price back up to the same level where they failed previously. Okay. My trap setup has a lot to do with a lot of bulls are playing this resistance. And so it starts to hesitate here for a little bit, a couple candles. So the bulls are starting to show a little bit of weakness here, just like they did over here. They're just not strong enough to make it through this level. The bears are really stepping in. And then it finally, after a little bit of hanging out, it finally breaks out. And a lot of bulls start to play this because of this hesitation, right? Um, so once the bulls start to step in right here, if it then fails to hold and starts to drop, now you have not just all of these bulls exiting, but you also have a lot of bulls up here that are stuck in the trade, and everyone starts to exit all at once because they now know this was just a trap, and this tends to drop really fast and really hard. And so my trap setup is just being aware of this breakout. So it's has the hesitation and then it's a breakout. 90% of the time it does this, continues. 10% of the time it comes back into this buying spot and then just fails.
So that's actually let's say the S curve meets the double top. So
Correct.
you're at you take the bear trade already at the top of the double top before it actually forms,
Yeah.
whereas we would wait a few candles until it breaks the neckline.
Exactly. So I'm going to use the high of this breakout trap for a place for my stop. And so I can get in here with my stop up here, knowing that if this bounces, I'm wrong. This should fall very fast. And so I can lose very, very small. And by the time it gets to everyone's entry, I'm up 2 Rs or
Right.
more.
Yeah.
And that's the difference from professional traders and everyone else. Professional traders are up 2 Rs by the time everyone else is even getting in because they understand price action, they understand how to lose small. I can, especially with options, I can lose very, very small if I'm wrong, and I can win very, very big if I'm correct. And that's all that matters. And so I just keep setting myself up to be in those situations where I can manage that lose small, win big situation.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Andreas had a question here, which is actually a question I had for you earlier also. We teach, especially those who wants to day trade, to focus on a few stocks,
Yeah.
like Jeremy just focuses on Tesla, for example, for day
Yeah.
trades, right? So Andreas asks, how many different stocks do you trade, and is it a good idea only to trade a few?
Um, yes. So I kind of have a handful of stocks that I like to trade when it comes to shorter time frame. The shorter the time frame you get on. So I would say 1 hour or less, things can start getting really weird and really trappy. And so you need to become familiar with how that market moves. And so I mainly just trade like SPY. I trade a lot of the markets, but I love SPY. So I become very, very familiar with SPY, and like that's the one that I pretty much day trade. The smaller time frame ones, I just have a handful that I stick to. When it comes to swing trading on some bigger time frames, I will expand it out to any stock out there. But it has to meet certain criterias. And a lot of the times I'm just doing like monthly credit spreads on those because it gives me even more of a cushion because I don't know that stock quite as well. So if I get a perfect, let's say, double bottom on a random stock on a weekly chart and it retests and I'm like, this is a great play, but I don't trade the stock very often. Instead of buying shares here or instead of buying options here where I have to be perfectly correct in order to make money, I sell a credit spread. And that way, if it kind of doesn't work, I'm still making money. So I get very conservative, use larger time frames, wider stops, credit spreads on stocks that I don't trade very often, so I can still take advantage of great moves. And then on the ones that I tend to trade more frequently, those my handfuls that I'm always looking at, those are ones where I can get a little bit more aggressive with and do a lot more directional trades that could make a lot more money. So I would definitely recommend just zoning in on just a couple for sure. Get really, really good. There's nothing wrong with building a base to just make you money every month for the most part, right? Your consistent income is like your go-to. And then once you have this thing bringing in profits, now you can afford to go try some other stuff while you're still doing this. Like I always keep this in the background. And so when I have this in the background, I can afford to go try other things with smaller size. The problem is everyone's doing this before this is providing consistency. So I very much agree. Like stick to one or two stocks and then just be okay not trading. People get really bored with one stock because again, that setup might only happen one time a day. On a swing trade, it might only happen one time every week or two. And so, what are they going to do for 14 days? They just get very bored. And then they're like, all right, well, I'm just going to go. And this is, again, they just want to make money. And the money doesn't come from trading. And so, if they're not pressing a button, if they're not trading, they're bored. When in reality, bored is what makes you money because you should be planning. You should be waiting for the greatest setups on day trades and swing trades. You should be waiting for the best setups. So that way you can have the easiest chance of making money because everything's aligned. All the bears were trapped. Now I know we gap up here. It's going to run just like on the cues when it breaks the pennant pattern on the gap. You buy it, did a day trade and a swing trade, and just ride that momentum. So pick a few and get very intimate with those stocks, figure out how they move, and trading will be a lot easier, especially if you can just wait and just not. Don't pick a stock and trade it 25 times a day. Pick a stock and do like one trade a week. Like is this my one trade in the week? Is it that good? Are you drooling over it? Are you just so like, oh my gosh, everything is aligned? When it gets to that point, I trade. Other than that, I'll just wait.
You know, it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. So actually, you know, what makes you the money is your patience. That's what you you paid. Hey, I think I heard someone say that at some point. Um, someone who spells patience with a in a different way than everyone else does. Anyway.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So, guys out there, bring on your questions. I know you have them, and don't be embarrassed if your English is not as good as everyone else's. Just write it in Danish, and I'll translate it. And if you want to come on the mic, you know do that also. We have to take advantage of Tony when he's here. Get all the knowledge pumped out of him while we have the chance.
Yeah.
And while people wait, how many trades would you be in a you know on your normal portfolio in a random day? How many swings, day trades, credit spreads, and so on would you be in at any one time?
Yeah, I only day trade maybe once a week, maybe once every other week when I get really great opportunities and I know people are trapped and emotions are high. So day trades I'm not in super frequently. My swing trades I'm usually in one to two swing trades at a time. Credit spreads kind of the same thing. I'm usually in one to two credit spreads at a time. Those could be short term, those could be longer term. Um, I'm usually in investments all the time and I'm just selling covered calls against those are just long-term holds. But for my trades, I'm usually not in too much more than one to two. The most I'm in at one time might be five for swing trades at a time. And on swing trades, I'm putting about 3% of my account for my R. So at any given time, I've got like 10 to 15% of my account tied up in risk in swing trades, and credit spreads are a lot more. So I put like 15% of my account on each credit spread. And so that could be a lot heavier, but it's a higher win rate and I hedge it so I don't actually end up losing this amount. But that's the numbers I'm usually in.
No, it's great. It also gives people and an understanding of, how much is a professional successful trader, how much does he actually have on? It's not like you have 10 trades on at any time, having to control everything. My
Yeah.
understanding of your way of trading, it's very relaxed. You actually spend more time on the golf course than you do behind the screens.
Yeah. Yeah. Very relaxed, very chill, just waiting for the best.
That's
That's
awesome. That's
that
awesome.
matches my lifestyle pretty well.
So Andres is on again. He asks, when were you sure what you when was you sure that you could quit your job? When did you feel that you were good enough for
Good
trading?
question. Good question. The number one, there's two parts of that. Part number one is, do you have enough money in your trading account? So you should have your bills should be about 5% a month of your trading account. So let's say, you've got $1,000 worth of bills each month. That should be about 5% of your trading account at the minimum. Okay. Ideally, it's more like 1 to 2%. So you need to have a trading account with a decent size, understanding that most traders are going to make about 50 to 100% a year return of their trading account. That's what the average professional trader will make, right? So that's what I average. So if your bills are 200% of your trading account, it's going to be really hard to pay those bills. So you really want that to be a much lower number where you can grow your account but also pay your bills. So the number one thing is your trading account size. It needs to be up there to be able to for your lifestyle. The second thing is savings. You need to have savings in um set aside because like I was telling you guys before, trading is not just this perfect I make money every week, every month. You might go 2 or 3 months not making anything. You might go a month of getting your butt kicked and it takes you 2 months to make back those losses. And so if you have money set aside to pay your bills so that you don't feel forced to trade. My reason why I failed so hard when I first quit my job to trade full time was because I had so much pressure on me to make money right now. And that made me trade, even though it wasn't great trades. And all I did was lose a lot. And then I got even more emotional because now I have to make back my losses, etc. The best way to do it is just go, look, I can afford to sit on my hands for months and wait for that great trade instead of put on 55 trades and end up losing 20 hours. I can just wait because it's very rare the markets are off for 2 to 3 weeks at a time. It's usually about that and then they pick a direction. So if you have savings set aside and you have enough in your trading account, that's step number one. Step number two is, are you currently making enough money to pay your bills? Because that's not going to start when you quit your job. You need to be currently making enough for at least a year or two in a row, 2 years in a row, where it's like, I'm making $50,000 a year or I'm making whatever, right? You're paying your bills through trading. People think like, I'll make more money when I have more time to trade. True, but you should have the skills to be able to make money on the side in swing trades as well, slow and steady and growing your account just as easily. It's like I wish that I would have been a little bit more proficient on all of these when I first quit my job. Um, but it has more to do with like what's your current state in trading? Are you actually profitable right now, or are you still struggling? If you're still struggling, it's not going to get easier and better when you quit your job. It's going to get harder. The pressure is going to weigh on you. It's going to be hard. If you're easily making money right now, if you're like, man, I am getting a 50% return of my account on average every year, and I'm doing this for a year or two, great, right? If you have a $50,000 trading account and you're making $25,000 a year in profits at the end of the year on it, and you've done that for 2 years in a row at least, there's a pretty good chance that you've got the skills to trade and you're ready to go on that side. Now it's just a matter of, is your account large enough to cover your bills? Do you have savings set aside, etc. So that would kind of be where I would leave that answer is it's different for every person, but I would say at least those base marks will help set you up for success.
Yeah, it makes a hell of a good sense. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. So not only learning takes time, but also growing your account to that size takes time. and
Yeah,
hopefully learning will grow that account.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
exactly. You should be growing that account. Once you have the skills, that account should grow. You'll make enough in a year or two to get your account to where it needs to be. If not, then you're not going to start doing that when you quit your job.
For
So,
sure, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. So John is asking, are you turning back to the same to trade, or do you have a handful or two to choose between? I guess John is talking about strategies here. Are you using the same strategy over and over, or are you using, a handful?
I'm at a place right now where I use a handful. I understand the pros and cons of strategies. And for me, it's about what gives me the greatest reward and what allows me to accept the downside of each strategy. Every strategy has a downside. Credit spreads, you lose a lot when you're wrong, but you have a high win rate because you can give yourself a really good cushion. You can hedge it, right? So there's always a downside to every strategy. And so I look at what opportunities are in front of me. I can stop sharing this. What opportunities are in front of me and what would be the best strategy for that moment. So that took a long time for me to get to. Um, but that's currently how I trade is if I am looking at a swing trade and I miss that entry and it's already I see the momentum and it's running, then I'm not going to chase it and get into a swing trade. I will probably do a credit spread because that doesn't require as perfect of an entry. So I can still make some money with a credit spread instead of a swing trade in that situation. Or I might day trade it and still make just as much money in 2 hours than I would have made on that swing trade for a week, right? Because that momentum is there. I see the momentum, I see where it wants to go, and now I'm just applying the right strategy at the right time. And that could be different for everyone. Um, but for me, it has a lot to do with like, what's my risk? What's my reward? I could have just done a credit spread on Tesla when it went up 200%. I would have made a couple $1,000. But instead, I bought calls and I made like 55% of my trading account in a week. So it's putting the right strategy at the right time for the right reason to be able to leverage as much upside as I can and protect the downside. So that's how I currently trade right now.
So
But it
that's
took me
that's
a while to
that's
get there.
also, that's experience. So,
Yeah.
start out with that one strategy that you found that one that suits you, build on that. Just as you just mentioned with building your account. When you have that account, when you have that, let's call it the money machine standing there with that one good strategy just churning all the time, then you can start, fanning out, experimenting with what I always say, start with stocks. The risk is less, and it's easy. Everyone understands stocks, and when you are successful with stocks, then go for options because they're a little more fiddly, and
Yeah.
and the risk is larger, right?
Yeah. Can be for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that makes a good sense. Hey Tony, thank you very much. This hour just flew away. But thank you for pouring into us. We really
Yeah.
really appreciate it. Your knowledge and all your experience. It's we try our best to teach, but it's always good to have someone from the outside coming in with a different perspective, a different view on life and everything, and then telling us how you succeeded with this. We've all seen your life story or the videos on RLT, and I actually found an interview with you that Jeremy did 4 years ago that I just watched today, and it's just as awesome as the other videos. So thank you very much, Tony. It's very inspiring to have you come here and talk to us.
Yeah. My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me. And I hope this helped you out in some ways and you guys can keep moving forward on your goals and changing your life.
For sure, for sure. Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
to all you Danish real traders, see you in Slack later on.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.